There are worlds beyond our own so extraordinary it's hard to believe they even exist. There are planets covered in diamonds, ice that's on fire, and even a planet made of cotton candy.
The Cotton Candy Planet.
Cotton candy planets exist, just not in the way you were hoping. There are no planets made from delicious cotton candy, although we can all agree that would be awesome. Instead, there are planets known as super puffs that have the same density as cotton candy.
Scientists currently know about 3 super puffy planets, all of them located inside the Kepler-51 star system. The super puffs orbit a very young star, which was spotted by NASA for the first time in 2012. It was a few years after when researchers realized how low in density the planets are. All these years later, NASA scientists are still struggling to understand why and how. A puffy planet is a few times the mass of Earth, but way, way bigger in terms of total size. Each puffy planet is roughly the size of Jupiter, but hundreds and hundreds of times lighter. That's why scientists compare them to cotton candy, because the planets are huge but have hardly any mass to them. Plus, Kepler-51 has a bright pink atmosphere, so it physically looks like a magical ball of cotton candy too. What makes them so large is their atmosphere, bloated to an extreme level. When scientists used the Hubble telescope to look for telltale chemical signatures, they couldn't find any. That was really unexpected for the team, who anticipated at least some chemical telltales to explain the huge planets. Their best guess is that it has something to do with their star being a mere 500 million years old. The world of burning ice. Welcome to the world where the ice is on fire. Planet Gliese 436b is located 30 light-years from Earth near the constellation of Leo. It's roughly the size of Neptune, orbiting a red dwarf star. Gliese 436b's star is smaller and cooler than the Sun, and less bright too. It only takes 2 days for the planet to completely orbit its star, whereas it takes Earth 365 days. The planet is so close to its star that the 2 celestial objects are almost touching. Scientists think it orbits its star from only about 1/13 of the distance between Mercury and the Sun. You may already know what happens when a planet orbits closely to its star. The closer it is to its host star, the hotter it typically is. That's where scientists get the habitable zone from, also known as the Goldilocks zone. There is a certain distance a planet can be to its sun that makes it not too hot and not too cold. Pluto is so far away that it's basically a ball of ice. Mercury is so close to the Sun, it's basically a hell planet. Earth is situated perfectly in between. In the case of Gliese 436b, it is way too close to ever be habitable. The temperature is roughly 980 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. It's so hot that water cannot become liquid. NASA says that Gliese 436b has 7,000 times less methane than it should. Scientific models say a planet like Gliese should have immense amounts of methane in its atmosphere, but this planet doesn't. Instead, it's full of carbon monoxide molecules. The presence of carbon monoxide is also a mystery because it shouldn't be present on a planet that's so hot. The result is an exotic form of water ice scientists are calling Ice X. The bizarre icy substance remains completely solid because of the unusual molecules in the atmosphere. But because of the blisteringly hot temperatures, the ice is also on fire.
And now for number 7. But first, it's shoutout time. I want to give a big thank you to Vic Morrison and Ronald Guest for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this.
Earth 2.0.
If something were to ever happen to Earth that made it completely unlivable, humans have a backup planet. Sort of. Earth 2.0 is out there 1,400 light-years away. It would be a big trip, but scientists say it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. Of course, life there would still be pretty different. The question is, will we ever reach Earth 2.0?
Kepler-452b is Earth's fat cousin. The planet is about 60% wider and 5 times more massive. That means it has far stronger gravity than what humans are used to. If humans ever settled on the alien planet, it would only take a few generations for people to become really strong. It would be a challenge, as NASA's John Jenkins admitted, but one that humans would be able to conquer. Astronaut John Grunsfeld said living on Earth 2.0 would make our bones stronger. People would likely get stockier, maybe shorter too, so that they were closer to the ground. Outside the extraordinary gravity, life on Earth 2.0 would be really similar to life on Earth 1.0. The planet sits about the exact same distance away from its star as Earth does. Our stars are even very similar. The sunshine would feel a little weird, but familiar enough to enjoy. You could still do plenty of sunbathing.
But another thing to think about is that there might already be people on the planet, or at least intelligent beings. If there are, that could of course complicate things and raise a whole host of ethical questions of us just showing up there. But it's also fun to think about what kinds of animals might live there. If the planet is similar to Earth, the animals might be similar to Earth, but not quite the same, so just use your imagination.
The planet has a thick atmosphere, liquid water, and even volcanoes. At least scientists think it does. They can't say for sure since their telescopes don't show them the surface of the planet. They can only make educated guesses. There is one big problem though. Kepler 452b's star is really old. It's 1.5 billion years older than the Sun, which is bad news. Very soon, as in sometime over the next 500 million years, this star will become unstable. It will start outputting too much energy. By the time humans reach Kepler 452b, it could be in the process of losing its oceans to extreme heat and being baked by ultraviolet light. The Forbidden Planet. A forbidden planet has been spotted 280 light-years from Earth. The planet shouldn't exist. It's highly unusual, about the same size as Jupiter. But what makes it so unbelievable is that it orbits a star not much bigger than itself. The discovery was made thanks to NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, called TESS for short. Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. This newly discovered planet is the same size as Jupiter, but it orbits a red dwarf star only 40% the size of the Sun. The red dwarf is also significantly cooler than the Sun. It's about 5,660 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas our host star is nearly 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. As scientists have found more and more planets and stars out in the universe, they've come to realize that dwarf stars are numerous. They are pretty much everywhere and almost always have planets orbiting them. But in most cases, these small stars are host to small planets. This is the first time that scientists found such a giant planet revolving around such a small star. The new planet is called TOI 5205b. Researchers compared it to a pea orbiting a lemon. On the other hand, they say Jupiter is like a pea orbiting a grapefruit. That's the size difference between the two planets and their stars. Don't ask me why astronomers are so obsessed with comparing planets to fruit, but it's helpful, right? Before I show you the next outrageous planet that could be worth trillions of dollars, let me explain why scientists are saying this planet is so forbidden. When a planetary system forms, there is a very specific formula. Stars are created from enormous clouds of gas and dust in the vacuum of space. When the star is finished forming, its leftover material swirls about the general area. Gravity and swirling pieces of rock form planets, and soon the area has become its own solar system. The planets orbit the star from which they were all born. In the case of TOI 5205b, based strictly on the size of its star, there should not have been enough material for it to be born. It exists outside the guardrails of a planetary system's formation. Super Diamond Earth. Scientists have identified a planet that is absolutely massive, known as a super Earth. It's big and made mostly from diamond. If humans lived on this planet, diamonds would be absolutely worthless. The whole planet is stuffed with them. But if you could go get them and bring them back to Earth, that's an entirely different story. The super Earth is called 55 Cancri E, first discovered in 2004 just outside the Milky Way galaxy. Scientists have been studying its mass, radius, and composition. Now they've announced the rocky world is composed almost entirely of carbon that happens to be in the form of diamond and graphite. At least 1/3 of the planet's mass is from pure, sparkling diamond. Researchers at Yale University said this was the first time a rocky world was discovered with a fundamentally different composition than Earth. The surface is likely covered in graphite mountains and diamond terrain. If you were to walk across the surface, you would be walking across ground worth trillions of dollars on our own planet. Unfortunately, for any would-be space miner, the planet is extremely uninhabitable. Surface temperatures reach 3,900 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet orbits its host star in only 18 hours, despite it being so big. It's roughly twice the size of Earth, yet it has a mass 8 times greater. The water planet. Out in the universe is a planet upon which a real-life water world scenario could be happening right now. Scientists are calling it an ocean planet, a miraculously enormous world totally covered in water. Just imagine the kinds of terribly fascinating creatures that might live on a world without a single piece of dry land. This strange planet was recently found by scientists in Canada. It's pretty close to our own planet, only 100 light-years away. Yet again, scientists gave it a really boring name, TOI 1452b. It's orbiting a small star in the constellation of Draco, which you can see with your own eyes if you look toward the Big Dipper at night. Initial studies have shown the water planet is 70% bigger than Earth, and in the habitable zone of its star, it's in the perfect spot where the water doesn't boil or freeze, remaining in a perpetual liquid state. Is the exact kind of place where a true sea monster could thrive. Charles Cadeau from the University of Montreal said TOI 1452b is the best candidate for a true ocean planet ever found. It's really exciting because the planet is in a perfect place to be observed by the newly launched Webb telescope. It's also in a great place to harbor life. In the next few years, scientists could find strange aliens living in the enormous ocean. What do you think that life would look like? Let me know in the comments, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Raining molten glass. Planet HD 189733b is a giant blue orb upon which molten glass rains from the skies. It's a frightening place that humans will likely never step foot on, but not just because it's located 63 light-years away. Even if humans achieve warp speed, nobody is ever going to want to go there. It would mean certain death. Looking at the planet through a telescope, it looks like a peaceful place. The atmosphere is beautifully blue with trippy streaks of white. Beautiful, but deadly. The alien planet is a gas giant located way too close to its star, just like the ice fire planet. Only the molten glass planet is twice as hot as the fire ice planet. It has a daily temperature of around 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. Scott Wolk at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics said the size of the atmosphere causes the planet to be bombarded by energy radiation from its star. Wind gusts across the surface at roughly 5,400 miles per hour. That's far greater than the force of any hurricanes we experience here on Earth. Those kinds of winds would erase human civilization in a matter of minutes, unless they lived underground. Caught in the deadly winds are shards of molten glass raining sideways. The craziest part is that scientists don't understand how there is still water vapor on the planet that fuels the rain of molten glass. Any ideas? TRES 4b. TRES 4b is the largest known exoplanet ever found. It's also one of the strangest planets in the universe that theoretically should not exist. Scientists at the Lowell Observatory in Arizona said TRES 4b is far larger than it's supposed to be based on all known scientific formulas. It should be the size of Jupiter, but is instead almost twice as big. It hangs in space 1,400 light-years away from Earth, orbiting its host star in 3.5 days. The planet's density is odd. Although it's almost double the size of Jupiter, it's significantly less massive. Its density is only about 1/3 of a gram, compared to a piece of wood. When scientists first spotted it in 2006, TRES 4b was the largest known planet and the planet with the lowest known density. It's like being the tallest person in the world while weighing less than a baby. Why is the planet so big but so small at the same time? The only logical explanation is that there is something weird going on with its star. Scientists suspect its parent star is 4 times brighter than the Sun, somehow superheating the planet and making it ridiculously big. The ring that shouldn't exist. There's something I have to admit, and I hope you feel the same way. Scientists need to start giving planets cooler names. It's not fair to name a cool planet something like TE 45678. Something absolutely must be done about this. The good news is that some scientists are putting a little more effort into the naming. Just take a look at the bizarre world of Quaoar. The dwarf planet Quaoar is located at the edge of our solar system. It was first spotted in 2002 in the Kuiper Belt, which itself is a very interesting region in space. The Kuiper Belt is tucked away behind Neptune, home to roughly 3,000 planets that orbit the Sun. But they're all very far away, making them of little consequence to Earth. They are cold and likely harbor no life. Quaoar takes 286 years to orbit the Sun. The planet also has a small moon, which scientists gave a cool name to as well. The moon is called Waywatt. Scientists with the European Space Agency started investigating Quaoar in 2018. They were shocked to observe a ring around the planet that shouldn't exist. Lots of planets have rings, such as Saturn, but Quaoar's ring is scientifically baffling. That's because its ring is very far from the planet beyond its Roche limit. The Roche limit is the scientifically accepted distance to where a planet's ring can be. Planets like Saturn, Haumea, and Chariklo all have rings of space dust and cosmic objects within the Roche limit, but Quaoar breaks the rules, with its ring being 7.5 times its own radius. The objects in its cosmic ring should have morphed into a moon, but they haven't. Scientists think maybe it's too cold for the particles to stick together. Thanks for watching! Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
Storms as wide as Earth. Known as Great White Spots, these giant storms resemble the same thunderstorms we experience on Earth, except they're much larger and stretch across the entire planet, alternating between the equator and mid-latitudes. Since being discovered in 1876, Great White Spots have occurred 6 times on Saturn, happening every 20 to 30 years. Until recently, scientists were stumped when it came to figuring out what causes these Great White Spots, or why it takes so long for them to go through the stormy process. Research findings from a study led by Cheng Li, a planetary scientist at California Institute of Technology in Pasadena, were released in 2015, and they revealed that storms may be delayed from developing for decades at a time due to suppression caused by water vapor in Saturn's atmosphere. The most recent storm, which was captured by NASA's Cassini spacecraft, began in 2010, and within 6 months encircled the entire planet. It was nearly as wide as planet Earth, and the latitudinal extent of the storm's head was roughly the equivalent of the distance between London and Cape Town. This 2010 storm helped the scientists understand the confusing dynamics between Great White Spots. Water molecules on Saturn are heavy compared to the hydrogen and helium molecules that make up most of the planet's atmosphere, causing the water to sink down and form a separate layer. This wet layer prevents warm air from rising as it normally would, leading to a lack of convection, the process of hot and cold gases churning in the atmosphere that storms are usually caused by. When the upper atmospheric layer eventually cools and becomes heavy enough to sink, causing warm, moist air to rise rapidly, the Great White Spot is finally triggered. Raining diamonds. A rain shower of diamonds. I bet a lot of people wish they could get their hands on that. Except it happens on Uranus and Neptune, and these two planets are billions of miles away. The chance that their gems will be harvested, at least during our lifetime, is slim to none. It's still pretty neat though, right? A study published in Nature Astrophysics Journal in August 2017 detailed how researchers successfully recreated the conditions of Uranus and Neptune in a laboratory, and using fancy plastics and high-powered lasers, produced something called diamond rain, which is essentially what it sounds like. In a nutshell, here's how it works. Neptune and Uranus are 17 and 15 times the mass of Earth, and their atmospheres experience pressures millions of times more intense than the air pressure at Earth's sea level. The extreme pressures of the planet's interior splits molecules into hydrogen and carbon atoms, the latter of which crystallize, forming diamonds. In other words, lightning storms turn methane into carbon, which toughens into chunks of graphite as it falls. These chunks of graphite eventually harden into diamonds,
some of which succumb to the immense atmospheric pressure and become liquid. Between Uranus and Neptune, scientists estimate that over 1,000 tons of diamonds are being created annually. Until this recent study, scientists had never proven that diamond rain showers on these planets were possible, although they had long speculated about it. But it wasn't the first time diamonds were connected to space. Fragments of a meteorite that fell in 2008 and exploded over a desert in Sudan contain diamonds. And in Brazil, there are carbonado, or black diamonds, that are believed to have resulted from a meteorite crash 3.8 billion years ago. Jupiter's Great Red Spot. There's a Megga Storm raging on Jupiter. It's been continuously observed since 1830, but similar reported sightings from as long as 350 to 400 years ago are believed by some researchers to be the same storm. On the other hand, some scholars believe that the storm observed during the 1600s and 1700s was a different one than the one occurring today. Will we ever know for sure? Probably not. Regardless, a storm that has likely been going on for 400 years is quite impressive. The turbulent atmospheres of gas giants such as Jupiter are common places for anticyclonic storms, such as the Great Red Spot, which is twice as wide as planet Earth and rages at 400 miles per hour. By comparison, the 1,000-mile-wide, 200-mile-per-hour hurricanes that happen on our planet seem kind of small. Scientists are uncertain about what gives the Great Red Spot its crimson hue, but it may be caused by sulfur in the atmosphere. According to studies, the clouds created by the storm consist of ammonia, ammonium hydrosulfide, and water, but researchers are unsure if the Great Red Spot's colors are the result of a chemical reaction. They also don't know exactly what causes storms like this, partially because Jupiter is such a different planet than ours. It's 1,000 times the size of Earth and is mostly gas, with an ocean of liquid hydrogen surrounding its core and an atmosphere consisting mostly of hydrogen and helium. Additionally, telescopes and orbiting probes are only able to capture elements of the Great Red Spot that are high in the atmosphere. In other words, mostly clouds and not much else. There is some value to researching the dynamics behind this superstorm, according to planetary atmosphere expert Amy Simon. Despite Jupiter's much different chemical makeup, its weather functions under the same physics as planet Earth. Studying Jupiter and the storm could lead to a better understanding of Earth's weather system and of worlds beyond our solar system. A new sibling storm known as the Little Red Spot, or Red Spot Jr., has emerged in recent years. It was created in Jupiter's southern hemisphere as the product of 3 smaller, white-colored storms. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. Greenhouse effect from hell. It's no secret that Venus is the solar system's hottest planet, with an average temperature of 735 Kelvin, or 462 degrees Celsius. With a surface hot enough to melt lead and an atmospheric pressure 92 times greater than that of Earth, it also sounds like the solar system's most uncomfortable planet. But why is Venus so hot? Put simply, it's because of the planet's runaway greenhouse effect that likely began millions of years ago. When heat radiates from the ground, carbon dioxide in the planet's atmosphere prevents it from traveling back into space. It's essentially the same as if you sat in your car on a hot day with the windows rolled up. No thanks. Scientists believe that Venus used to be more like Earth, with lower temperatures and liquid water, but the planet heated up at some point billions of years ago, causing all of its water to evaporate. Water vapor is a more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, causing temperatures to rise dramatically. Carbon dioxide that was trapped in rocks sublimated into the atmosphere and mixed with oxygen. As a result, more carbon dioxide was created. Ultimately, and not surprisingly, Venus's atmosphere became the dense, carbon dioxide-dominated environment that it is today. It's admittedly difficult to collect hard data from Venus, since probes that have landed there were destroyed within hours by its atmosphere. However, computer modeling of the planet's ancient climate, created by scientists at NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, demonstrates that Venus may have in fact once been habitable. The model used by researchers to determine this information was similar to that used to predict future temperatures on Earth. While this doesn't make any positive indications for the future of climate change on our planet, it's unlikely that Earth will become as hot as Venus during our lifetime. Thank goodness. Explosions in the sky. Speaking of Venus, it has a lot more going on. Despite being nearly the same distance from the Sun as Earth, Venus is 100 times hotter and its days are 200 times longer than ours.
Its atmospheric pressure is similar to that of diving 3,000 feet beneath our ocean surface. Venus also lacks a magnetic field, unlike Earth, and this at least partially affects the Sun's impact on the planet. About 44,000 miles away from Earth, the Sun's solar wind collides with the planet's magnetosphere, which acts as a protective shield that keeps most of the wind from penetrating the atmosphere. Venus, on the other hand, does not have a magnetosphere. Instead, its atmosphere is almost entirely carbon dioxide with thick clouds of sulfuric acid covering the planet. This causes the previously discussed runaway greenhouse effect, which results in temperatures hotter than the surface of Mercury. With winds constantly moving at around 224 miles per hour, Venus's atmosphere resembles a burning hot hurricane with metal snow and rain showers of sulfuric acid. Most shockingly, however, are the explosions, also known as hot flow anomalies, or HFAs, that occur near the planet's surface. They often happen multiple times a day and can be larger than Venus itself. HFAs are so strong, they cause supersonic solar winds to reverse direction. The same phenomenon occurs near Earth on an average of once daily, but because Venus lacks a magnetosphere, its HFAs happen much closer to the planet's surface. Supersonic methane winds. On Neptune, it doesn't just rain diamonds. Winds on the blue planet travel faster than the speed of sound. Neptune is the furthest planet from the Sun, unless you cling steadfastly to the outdated belief that Pluto is a planet, of course, and has the strongest winds in the entire solar system. High-altitude winds consisting of clouds of frozen methane travel at 1.5 times the speed of sound, exceeding 1,100 miles per hour. Winds on Earth, in comparison, move at a maximum of 250 miles per hour. On Neptune, some cloud formations, including one known as Scooter, circle the planet every 16 hours. Because the planet's top layer of wind blows in the opposite direction of its rotation, scientists believe there may be a warmer, thick layer of water clouds beneath the methane. The first and only close-range observations of Neptune were made in 1989 by NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft. In these detailed images, there were bright white clouds along with two massive storms speeding throughout the atmosphere. Composed primarily of hydrogen and helium, Neptune is considered a gas giant. Only 1–2% of its atmosphere is composed of methane, but the planet gets its blue hue from how this small amount of methane absorbs sunlight. Megga storms. In 2014, the typically placid planet of Uranus experienced a bizarre surge of megastorms, making it the planet's stormiest year on record. The planet had become more active in 2007, when the sun shone directly on its equator. As a result of this effect, scientists accurately predicted a particularly stormy year, but they didn't foresee the chaos that would occur 7 years later. Using the Hubble telescope in August of 2014, astronomer Imke de Pater of the University of California, Berkeley, and her team noticed 8 large swirling storms in Uranus's northern hemisphere. The storms extended some 5,592 miles across and happened at various altitudes. Among them was the brightest storm scientists have ever observed on the planet. De Pater pointed out that nobody expected the storms, and that they are demonstrative of how little is known about our solar system. She also explained that scientists were caught off guard by the storms and had no idea why they were occurring, and that in order to find out, they'd have to see if the storms were happening over the planet's southern hemisphere, a process she admits will take many years and may not happen during her lifetime. Because these storms lack an internal heat source, one theory holds that they were driven purely by sunlight. However, this theory is less than promising, since sunlight is weak in Uranus's northern hemisphere. Nitrogen ice clouds. With an average temperature of -315 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest place in our solar system is represented by Triton, one of Neptune's 13 moons. In fact, it's believed by some scientists that Triton and Pluto are similar in composition and may have shared origins. An image of Triton's large pinkish south polar cap, which is thought to possibly consist of a layer of slowly evaporating nitrogen ice, was captured in 1989 by NASA's Voyager 2. As a result, nitrogen clouds are formed a few kilometers above the surface. Triton's crust is also partially composed of water ice. During the 1989 Voyager 2 visit to Triton, scientists observed icy active volcanoes on the Moon. Triton also has seasons. Researchers using Chile's Very Large Telescope observed that during the summer in Triton's southern hemisphere, the moon's atmosphere is thickened by the sun's warmth. Yet even more strangely, Triton is slowly inching toward Neptune and has a backward orbit. It's predicted that in 3.6 billion years, long after humans are gone from the Earth, Triton will either collide with Neptune or break up and form a ring around the planet. I guess we won't be there to find out. Thanks for watching! Remember to subscribe and check out other videos about planets and space on Origins Explained. There's a lot more where that came from. See you next time. Bye!